The Hounds Griffin at midfield. Defense number 28.
On the banks of the Three Rivers, it's one of the best backdrops in all of USL Championship. Highmark Stadium in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The site for the 2025 home opener for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, hosting Hartford Athletic. Eric Dobransky, Josh Appel with you from Pittsburgh. And Eric, as we look back at Pittsburgh's first two matches, Bob Lilly told us this week, the week one draw at North Carolina, he was encouraged by, but he feels a bit let down by that week two 2-0 defeat at San Antonio.
And Josh, it'll be fascinating to see how this group responds heading into their third match of the season. how they're going to start stacking positive performances, and tonight it begins with that collective and consistent press that has been a staple for Riverhounds squads.
It starts with the collective, but up top, the guy who they'll rely on to put the ball into the back of the net, it's Augie Williams coming over from Indy 11, 10 goals, 2 assists a year ago.
It's his game-changing behaviors. He's made a career of scoring timely goals and goals that have defined matches, one of the most prolific attacking presences in this USL Championship. He's instinctual, ruthless, quality in and around the box.
And he's our player to watch, presented by Modelo. Here's how they'll line up for Bob Lilly around Augie Williams. What stands out to you in our starting lineup? Brewed for victory, I see light.
Idrak and Walty in midfield. It's going to be important not only to disrupt play in some of those individual duels, but also deny entry to Mamadou Zhang, who's so dangerous up top for Hartford Athletic.
How about for Brendan Burke's side? They had the week off from league play last week. They won in the Open Cup earlier this week, but they're coming off of a tough loss, 2-0 to Lexington.
And an absolute screamer of a goal right here by Joe Hafferty in the 9th minute. So a tough way to open up the season, conceding that early. We're unable to record a shot on frame in this match, and something that they're going to want to rectify tonight in the attacking third.
Maybe they can ride some of the momentum from their 3-0 win over New York Shockers in round 1 of the Open Cup. And Mamadou Zhang, he got on the score sheet, scored in the Open Cup on Tuesday last season, led the club, 11 goals.
And mentioned how important it is going to be for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds to bottle up Zhang. He's a charismatic attacking threat. He's physical, multi-dimensional. He can hold the ball up in possession, but also possesses the explosiveness and ability to separate with his movement.
So this is actually, Eric, the first game this season in league play that Brendan Burke will be on the sideline for Hartford Athletic. He was serving the final game of a red card suspension in week 1 against Lexington. So tonight he's on the sideline for the first time, and here's how they line up.
And a back line anchored by Farrell and Scarlett. But I mentioned not recording a shot on goal against Lexington. It's going to be something with the midfield where how can they connect? How can they hunt that space going forward? And Zhang, Ingalina, and Beckford up top, how do they connect?
It's Hartford, it's Pittsburgh. Both teams in search of their first wins in 2025 on a night where Pittsburgh will honor the legend, Kenardo Forbes. We'll have more on that after this from Highmark Stadium in Pittsburgh.
Ain't no better feeling than a cold one in my hand. That's why I'll be keeping Iron City in my plans. Oh, everywhere I roam, I'll be thinking about my home. Sitting pouring on the iron right before I go to rest. And when I'm laying in my bed, there's only one thing in my head. Just an ice cold can of Pittsburgh, PA's best.
At AHN, we see you trying to be your absolute best. And when it feels like you lost your best along the way.
Okay.
We see you taking control.
Looks good. Prescription. It says here.
And needing the quickest care possible.
Let's go.
At AHN, we see you.
Welcome back. The legend, Kenardo Forbes, who announced his retirement on March 13th, honored with his family, one of the all-time greats in USL Championship, now serving on the staff with Bob Lilly.
At this time, please rise.
But Eric,
your hats as we honor America.
Kenardo Forbes, more than 22,000 minutes played in this league. One of only 2 players now as of today. Sean Tosh of Louisville City joined him in that category, but again, just shy of 300 appearances, an all-timer.
Iconic figure in USL Championship history, and you bring up the minutes. He did an interview with Devin Kerr and Mike Watts this week on USL All Access, and he had mentioned the minutes were the most. What's jumped out to him the most was because of the durability, the availability over his career, and I would just add that just the immense quality that he brought in and day out was just tremendous, incredible.
And Bob Lilly, in our conversation with him this week, we love talking to Bob, he was telling us that Kenardo Forbes was basically a coach on the field while he was playing. Now he's an assistant coach by title, and he provides so much more after the fact, where he would practice, he would train, and then he'd go home. Now he's tasked with breaking down film and things of that nature, and it's been such a huge boost to this staff and to this club. And you know, this team's dealing with some injuries right now. Kenardo Forbes, if he wanted to, still might be able to play.
Can't imagine that hasn't crossed their mind. Bob Lilly also brought up with how well he balances himself and balances out that staff and demands.
And we're underway in the home opener for Pittsburgh at Highmark Stadium, along with Eric Dobransky. I'm Josh Appel. Thanks for spending part of your Saturday night with us on the banks of the Three Rivers here in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh in the black and yellow, Hartford Athletic in the white and blue. And Eric, you are a former coach. I mean, you could speak to a dynamic like that.
Yeah, it's so important because your players need that collaboration.
Well, here's a giveaway. Jang! Oh, he was nearly on the board 30 seconds in. He is dangerous. Pittsburgh's back line has to be careful.
And that's going to be something that they're want to tidy up here at the very beginning, and that's the recognition of the pressing cue there by Zhang. Mentioned how multidimensional he is as an attacker, and that's a portion of his game that just continues to evolve, the way he defends and leads this line.
Now let's see how Pittsburgh responds after that early giveaway. They calm things down a bit. That would have been a real tough start to their home opener.
Well, and Josh, you dodge an early bullet in terms of, you know, you get away with one, and sometimes early chances, conceding early chances like that, kind of wake teams up sometimes and kind of get you to be a bit more detailed, a bit more secure and sturdy with what you're doing on the ball, especially in the build.
Pittsburgh. The cross in was deflected, and it will be a corner for Pittsburgh. Cohen Markets corner kickoff coming. You take a look at TJ Prestis, who is in the starting 11 today for Emmanuel Samadia, who is serving a red card suspension in his own right. A lot of red cards suspensions to be served for this Hartford Athletic team at the beginning of this season. We mentioned earlier Brendan Burke is on the sideline for the first time tonight. Did not coach against Lexington because of a red card he received in the second to last game of last regular season. Off the corner, and it goes wide. Looks like Edrock got a piece of it, and it'll be a goal kick for Anthony Siaha. Siaha was added late in the preseason, formerly with Monterey Bay. He's been very steady the last couple of seasons, near the top of the league in save percentage. It's a great goaltending matchup. Eric Dick on the other side, first team all-league last year. Had a team record 14 clean sheets and 26 starts a year ago. Also won the Golden Gloves for lowest goals against. Pittsburgh, one of the most stout defensive units in all of USL Championship, year after year.
Well, the identity, to your point, is they never beat themselves. And I think that's why that early opportunity by Zhang kind of jumps out at you, because a Bob Lilly side, a Pittsburgh Riverhounds side, they're so difficult to break down. And to your point of being defensively stout, they typically do not hurt themselves and take on any self-inflicted opportunities.
As we get to our Building a Win, presented by 84 Lumber here tonight.
Yeah, for Pittsburgh, it's secure transition. I mean, obviously, early on, Zhang has already proved to be a handful with the pressing cues and the ability to explode into that space. And then for Hartford, it's the fine margins. It's the ability to convert some of those opportunities that they create in the final third. And they created some chances against Lexington, just were unable to find that final quality. Didn't get a shot on goal. Something that they're going to want to finalize here tonight when they do create some of those louder opportunities.
Farrell draws the whistle for the foul. And so a free kick coming for Pittsburgh. Get a look at Sean Suber, second season here in Pittsburgh. Bob Lilly and his staff, legend in this league. They've never missed the playoffs under the watchful eye of Bob Lilly. Robbie Mertz stands over this pseudo corner kick. Whips it in. Handled well by Hartford. And they're on the move. Too strong of a touch from Deshane Beckford, and it's a throw-in for Pittsburgh. As we take a look in just a moment, our injury report. AHN, the official medical provider of the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Still waiting to get Bertrand Jacquesin back into things. Charles All out with an ankle injury. Cariaga out for Hartford. But a lot of injuries all at the same time piling up for Bob Lilly's side. And honestly, it might be a matter for them of just kind of surviving this and staying afloat until all their guys get healthy.
But also made the point when we spoke to him earlier this week was the slow start they took on last year and not wanting to put themselves in that kind of position again. Learning from those early challenges last year, they had to kind of dig themselves out of a hole. Navigated a really terrific stretch in the middle of the season, but again, that takes a toll. That ends up putting a lot of pressure on your side day in and day out when you have the start they had to 2024.
Yeah, they started last season 0-3-2, 3-9-6 in the first 18 games. At one point during that stretch, they went 585 consecutive minutes without scoring a goal. And then what did they do over the final 16 matches? Just one loss, 9-1-6, and it got them into the playoffs. They finished 7th in the Eastern Conference. Advantage played. To the outside it comes for Aiden O'Toole. O'Toole, low cross, never got where it wanted to, and it was cleared away by Hartford.
And I remember last year,
into the river.
The narrative week in and week out was, is this the year that a Bob Lilly side does not make the playoffs? And it felt like they had to just overcome way too much. But never underestimate that man and what this team can accomplish, and they did just that. Obviously, they want to, you don't want to put everything on the start of a season because everybody knows that you're going to look different. We mentioned the injuries, obviously Hartford dealing with the same thing. You're getting into that match rhythm, and teams are going to look different in a week or two as they start to really gel and find that cohesiveness. But you just don't want to have to climb out of a hole that you've put yourself in when you can control what's going on in both boxes.
That's why it's so important to get off to a good start in your home opener against a team in Hartford that did not get a shot on goal in their first match against Lexington. Nearly had the first goal of this match 30 seconds in, but again, that didn't even force Eric Dick to make a save. Sailed it high. And the flag was up for offside there. So Eric Dick picks it up, 30-year-old, second season here in Pittsburgh.
And that opportunity by Zhang that you just mentioned goes back to the fine margins for Hartford. You do all the dirty work. You do the hard work. You get on the ball, and it's 1v1 with Eric Dick. And as you mentioned, didn't even force him into a difficult save. Something that Zhang is typically, it's a frightening scenario. You have Zhang 1v1 with the goalkeeper. Typically does much better with that opportunity.
Zhang, second season here. We talked about his club record, 11 goals last year, scored in the Open Cup on Tuesday. And we talked a lot about Pittsburgh, but for Hartford, mentioned their struggles in the opener against Lexington. It was Lexington's first ever USL Championship match, first ever match at home for them as well. Didn't produce a shot on goal, and you know, they go into this first round of the Open Cup. They take on New York Shockers. We know how unpredictable the U.S. Open Cup can be. Cup sets aplenty every year. And they came out and they won 3-0. How much can they ride that performance into tonight? Obviously, the opponents are of a different level. This one's on the road as well, but something that they can build off of for sure.
No, I mean, that's a great point, because that momentum is real. And regardless of the level or the opponent, I mean, that's why when you talk to coaches and they talk about how good training was, or you know, what they've seen from their team in those training environments, I mean, that's not a real match as well. You can kind of simulate some things here and there, but yeah, there's a lot of good takeaways from a result like that midweek in U.S. Open Cup. I mean, you mentioned it. There's so much unpredictability in the U.S. Open Cup. You don't have the typical scouting reports. You don't know what to expect. So you're problem solving real time, you're making adjustments, you're collaborating. And that's going to be something that Brendan Burke and his side are going to really hang their hat on midweek. Now, does that cause a little bit of schedule congestion here early on in the season where now, you know, you're playing on short rest? Yes, it's early. So, I mean, you know, you kind of take both sides of it, but I definitely think there's a lot of positives to take from a result like that heading into a tough away matchup.
Always tough to play here at Highmark Stadium. One of the most unique backdrops you'll find in USL Championship.
Home promotion. It's a golden mitt for Eric Dick's Golden Glove last year. Goalkeeper of the year, as you mentioned.
Suber plays to the area. Good look. It just goes wide. Biasi make that. Mertz is the one who got a piece of it. Just kidding. On third attempt, it was Danny Griffin, the captain, who made a play on it. But that's a great ball in from Sean Suber.
And that's something that Pittsburgh is going to want to continue to grow at as they change into this back four and this more ball-dominant style of play that Bob Lilly and his side are going to implement a bit more here in 2025. But it's also something that Lexington did a terrific job in their matchup to open the season, was utilizing those wide areas and then executing at a high level in those half spaces. So something that you could see here early on for Pittsburgh. Can you get the early delivery? Can you get the quality on the service? And then how quickly can you get Hartford to retreat into their own defensive third? And then now you take advantage of some of the outer layers that are available in that space. I mean, obviously Joe Hafferty's goal was an absolute cracker in that first matchup against Lexington, but it comes off of the Hartford being kind of stuck to their line and unable to clear that area.
How much does a chilly night like tonight, 42 degrees, feels like 32, 11-mile-per-hour winds, how much could that affect things here tonight? Obviously, these are two teams that are used to dealing with weather like this, but generally speaking, on a service like this, conditions like this, how does that affect things?
Yeah, sometimes when you talk to players and you talk to them about playing in the cold weather, they tend to enjoy it a bit more. That you don't have the heat, you don't have that to deal with. They feel like they can run for ages, so it's something where you probably get a little bit more energy and you feel like you want to keep moving. You need to keep moving, and that's something for both these teams, as you mentioned, very familiar with, something that they're accustomed to in their areas. And I think for the turf itself, it's always going to be difficult to judge a predictable bounce. It's always going to take into account some of the challenges on this surface.
You know, Eric, this is a Hartford Athletics side led by Brendan Burke, the guy who's been there and done that as far as rebuilding other clubs. It's his second season here. He was a finalist for Coach of the Year back in 2021. Last season they finished 4 points out of a playoff spot, 10th in the Eastern Conference, but they broke a single season points record. They tied a club record for wins. They set a club record for home wins with 9, earned points in 13 of their final 16 games. 5 of their 7 wins in that stretch were against playoff teams from a year ago. Is this the year that this team makes the playoffs for the first time since 2020?
I mean, it could be, and obviously Brendan Burke and this team feel like they have the ingredients to do it. Talking to him leading into that week 1 and kind of continuing to see how this team progresses, obviously just the one regular season match. Their priority in the offseason was they didn't want to change too much. As we see Brendan Burke, they were one of the hottest teams in the USL Championship to end that season. They didn't want to dismantle the core, but they did want to get younger. They wanted to get more durable. They wanted to bring that energetic aspect and element to this group. And so it's a team that doesn't carry it carries one of the smaller rosters in the USL Championship. So they had to make sure that they were durable, available. And obviously we just talked about the US Open Cup midweek. And the schedule, obviously it's a grueling one. You talk to everybody, it's quite a schedule. Now you add the Jägermeister Cup in this season as well. Obviously you don't have the 4, you have the 30 regular season games now instead of 34, but it's a roster that Brendan Burke feels very, very good about, and something that kind of checked all of his boxes in terms of what they did in the offseason. And now it's just like every preseason transitioning into those regular season games, it's about how quickly can you get everything firing and clicking.
You mentioned the depth with Samadia out tonight because of his red card suspension and Arturo Dizpe questionable with injury. They've only got 4 available defenders. So how do you manage that?
Yeah, you're very careful with it. You make sure that obviously it shouldn't affect the training environment. The short week does affect it in terms of you just played a match. Obviously they got a bit of squad rotation in midweek. But you want to make sure that this is a less transitional game than it needs to be. You want to make sure that you're getting quality influence from your front line like you see right now. You're not making your back line and your midfielders go up and down, up and down. You want to make sure that you're affecting the tempo and the pace of this game so that you can see a lot more of the ball. And they had possession. They had the possession percentage against Lexington. So they did a good job on the ball, being quality, making quality decisions. They just misfired a bit in the final third.
This match in the 18th minute. Each team has had a scoring chance each, although Hartford's was in the first 30 seconds. Since then, they really have not threatened much. Their home opener. On the night they honor Kenardo Forbes, all-time USL Championship legend. And Eric mentioned this earlier. If you haven't already, go seek out that USL All Access interview that Mike Watts and Devin Kerr did with Kenardo Forbes this week. Phenomenal stuff. He gave his, I guess for lack of a better way to put it, he gave his, essentially his Mount Rushmore of all-time USL Championship players. As Mertz. The outside now, E2. His cross was blocked. Nicely done by Anderson. And it's out for a goal kick. Bob Lilly, always gracious with his time. speaking to him this week. And, you know, we asked about Kenardo Forbes and how he is as a coach, and I followed up with, do you think that eventually Kenardo, if he wanted to be, could lead his own club? And Bob said, in so many words, yes, no doubt.
Yeah, I think he was a little more expansive than that, but just talked about how much respect he commands in any locker room from teammates, peers, and obviously that respect and just goes a long way. Just the instant credibility of being the icon that he is in the USL Championship.
Mertz, back post. It's a good ball to get it to him in the first place. Read well by Siaha and cleared all the way down.
And that's one of Anthony Siaha's major strengths. Obviously, there's a lot of them, and shot stopping is a massive one as well, but his command in and around that 6-yard box is impeccable, and a lot of traffic there from Pittsburgh. Good numbers, good layers, but Anthony Siaha able to pick that out. Just going back briefly to Bob Lilly and Kenardo Forbes and the ability to be a head coach and just coaching in general, I think just his tactical knowledge of the game, his ability to relate to players and relate the game to what the players are seeing. He was talking about him doing a film session earlier in the week and how effective it was.
Player slow to get up for Pittsburgh is E2.
Dealing with this long throw, you have Joe Farrell climbing up to meet that ball, and
see the possession just dominated so far by Pittsburgh. That one shot for Hartford came in the first 30 seconds from Mamadou Jang that he sent high over the bar. And Eric, one of the things that Bob Lilly spoke to us about, and part of his disappointment with the San Antonio performance, he felt that San Antonio got into a rhythm before they did. And tonight, it seems like, generally speaking, Pittsburgh has found an early rhythm, but and right there, number 9, who's got the ball on his foot there just a moment ago, they haven't really gotten him involved much early.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think he also expanded in terms of the ability that his team did not take a lot of risks, and that was something that he wanted to see more of tonight. So you mentioned that getting into rhythm earlier. I think that ability to play forward, play through the lines, and now you're just missing that last portion of playing through the lines to that man, Augie Williams, somebody that can do it in combination, can do it in isolated moments. So somebody that can find a dangerous opportunity in that final third. So they've done well building through the back to the middle. Obviously that early giveaway that Zhang almost jumped all over, but besides that, the combination and the complement of Walty and Edrak has been quite effective tonight.
Yeah.
Edrak started the previous 2 matches as a center back. I know they wanted to really bottle up Zhang, and the ability for both of those players to step into midfield. You just saw a bit ago when Eto climbed the field and joined the attack. Walty was able to drop in as a left back. So that interchangeability.
Pop towards the back post, but that was over the end line.
And that flexibility that it's Pittsburgh Riverhounds side can play with right now. And again, I think a lot of people are used to seeing a 3-back or that 5-back, depending on however you want to kind of define it. As you can see, Junior to climbing the field, getting his starting point, but that also, as Luke Biasi dropped in just a bit more.
You also got to wonder when they get a guy back like Bertrand Jacquesin, who's someone who they had last year, scored 5 goals, contributed on 2 others, became a real fan favorite when they brought him in from Real Salt Lake and Real Monarchs. And he's been dealing with a knock at the beginning of this season, suffered at the end of the preseason. He's one of many guys. Charles All has been missing time as well, but You got to wonder if when Jacqueline gets back, what that combo with Augie Williams ends up looking like.
Yeah, because Jacqueline, a flexible attacking player, somebody that can be very versatile.
Here's Mertz. His cross. It's a good one. Kept alive by Pittsburgh. Walty switches sides. Back to the near side, Mertz. Cuts to the inside. Walty. Hartford doing a nice job here. Walty. Turns back for Suber, formerly an MLS Next Pro with Huntsville City. Scored his first couple of professional goals a season ago. Walty again. Pittsburgh probing. E2. Had a knock off his foot by Anderson, and Anderson clears it away. Jang settles it down. Turns back. Shane Beckford. Williams should draw a whistle, and it did. Bob Lilly doesn't like it, but a delayed whistle, but the right one. USL on CBS kicks off April 6th with two former USL Championship title winners battling it out. Join us on Sunday, April 6th, as undefeated San Antonio FC takes on a Western Conference rival Phoenix Rising at 4 p.m. Eastern on CBS. San Antonio, of course, earned the 2-0 win against Pittsburgh last week. We're now down to 2 teams that have won every game. Loudoun came in today 2-0-0. They fell. Detroit came in today 2-0-0. They drew with Birmingham. So now San Antonio and Tulsa, only 2 left, trying to move to 3-0-0 respectively.
And San Antonio at Oakland tonight. The anticipation of opening the Coliseum or reopening the Coliseum in Oakland. A lot
What a scene that's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, incredible for the community, incredible for Oakland roots, exciting.
That community deserves a team like this that they can really get behind.
100%. And so San Antonio is going to have to go into Oakland and, as you mentioned, try to keep that unbeaten run alive. And a San Antonio side that did not make the playoffs last year.
They're off to a phenomenal start in changing that this season.
And then Phoenix Rising, another team that's starting to kind of click, put things together. If you haven't seen their comeback against El Paso, I mean, that's a goal by Traore is just incredible. It's almost from midfield.
To watch it a million times to fully grasp what went on. Phoenix, of course, always a contender. Fallen off a bit the last couple years, but things can change quickly.
Yeah, it's so interesting. You talk to so many coaches around the league, talk about off-season acquisitions, movement, and you just look at every roster. I mean, how each roster's just bolstered itself.
Yeah.
And it's just the USL Championship, the strength from every side, and it's just going to be such a competitive season. And it is every season, but again, you just look at some of the moves. I mean, Augie Williams joining Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Zhang obviously continues to develop for Hartford.
But again, I think the big question for Brendan Burke and Hartford Athletic is how do they manage this depth? Because Brendan Burke feels like he has the right pieces to kind of fit how he wants to play, his style. And of course, they can build off of, for the first time in a while, a really good season for them despite missing the postseason. But I think over the course of this long season, how do you manage the lack of depth? Not because they have guys who aren't quality. They literally don't have the bodies for the depth.
Yeah, and how does that depth affect the ebbs and flows of a long season? You know, because you look at some of the teams that make the playoffs and make deep runs, as we see Hartford play down. See this ball slipped in by Jimenez. The tackle on Ingalina. The referee very clear with the no call.
Brendan Burke, whatever explanation he's getting, he's not a fan of. I can tell he's warm, though. Some other scores from around USL Championship. How about Miami FC and Tampa Bay, both winless this season? Miami with the 1-0 lead in the first half. No score between Indy 11 and Lexington. Lexington took down this Hartford team in match week 1.
And conceded a late equalizer at Orange County.
Oh, player slip for Pittsburgh. And now Hartford with a chance. And this will draw a yellow and a free kick opportunity for Hartford. And it's been a really tough start to this game. We're a half hour in. But Ilalo Sumanu had the giveaway early. And here on Makangila, with that challenge, draws a yellow.
And I mentioned the change at midfield for Pittsburgh Riverhounds. The insertion of Makangila in midfield for Hartford did not start that first match against Lexington, came on in the 62nd minute. Obviously influenced that game in the tempo. Gets a start tonight, obviously somebody with a ton of experience and obviously familiarity with Brendan Burke. You saw him explode into that dribble, really forcing Sumanu to make a decision, pick up the early yellow card. I know we're in the 32nd minute, but now you've got to go close to 60 minutes playing with a center back on a yellow card, and you got to be measured now.
Anderson stands over it. Good chance here. Flicks into the area. And maybe a wasted opportunity there for Hartford Athletic. Ramadan. So they'll have a chance here to break their fast. Hydrate a little bit here in the 32nd, now the 33rd minute. No score. Pittsburgh's dominated the possession. They've kind of controlled most of the tempo, but I think, Eric, you would agree that the best chance for either side in this match came 30 seconds in from Mamadou Dieng.
Yeah, 100%. I think that was the opportunity, that loud moment. Dieng just needed to have a bit more composure in that sequence and tuck that away, and that would have been a tremendous start for Hartford. But it's in the past. Now you continue to move forward. Now how do you get a foothold back in this game? Because to your point, Pittsburgh has controlled the tempo. They have controlled possession. And that's something that Bob Lilly's side wants to do this year, really be ball dominant. But with that said, he had talked to us this week about the risks he wanted his team to play with, the bit of freedom, that ability to play balls through the lines and make sure that they were getting good numbers and quality in those areas.
Have you seen that?
I mean, not quite yet. In the first two phases, it's been quality through the build and through the middle phase, but you brought it up earlier, was the lack of involvement from Augie Williams,
yeah.
and I think that's where you would kind of measure how productive they've been. I mean, I think they've had some good moments in those half spaces. You had some delivery from Robbie Mertz. You've had some delivery from Aiden O'Toole, but you haven't really been able to create link-up play where you have players collectively in an area that can work off each other and put them in a position where they can upgrade the opportunity.
Trying to go over the top to find Augie Williams, and Siaha aggressively comes out to meet it. And Augie Williams, he scored in his Pittsburgh debut in week 1 against North Carolina. Only the third Pittsburgh player since 2018 to do so. Third player since 2018 to do so. And he's a prolific scorer. I mean, only Cal Jennings has scored more since 2020 than Augie Williams. And now Walty is called for a foul as Beckford went down.
And this is going to be in an area where the opportunity to clip it in or test Eric Dick is going to be an option. The other free kick just a few moments ago, you're really in an area that you do have to clip it in and rely on the quality of the service. Here you have multiple options. Now Pittsburgh Riverhounds have to be prepared for all of it. And with 10 minutes left in this half, and you've been playing a bit on the back foot and absorbing good pressure.
This one comes towards the back post, but it's cleared away. They've had back-to-back free kick opportunities that just have not been good services in. That hit our referee, Brandon Stevis.
It's Sebastian Anderson here on the delivery.
Walty got called for the foul, by the way, and he's the one who cleared that and deflected off the official. I'm not saying that there's anything malicious there. I'm just saying, you know, it's a little ironic. Is that irony?
Just making his point. Call me for another foul. But going back to Augie Williams, and you know, Bob Lilly had mentioned in that San Antonio game, obviously as you start to build into this possession-oriented style, obviously it's something that they've been accustomed to, but when you have a new group and a couple players that have stepped in, whether it's due to injuries or just overall, there is some familiarity that you need to build. And he had mentioned how direct and vertical they had relied on going against San Antonio. When you're playing center backs like Mitch Tainer and Cronali, and you have Augie Williams, I mean, that's just not the
right
style of play that they were looking for when they brought in Augie Williams. So, you know, making the point that a lot of the teammates around Augie have to make sure that they're playing to how they want to execute, playing the ball to Augie Williams' feet, and then obviously letting him dictate some of the tempo there in the final third.
Still looking to break through here. Pittsburgh's home opener, a night where they've honored Kenardo Forbes, one of the all-time greats. These two teams in search of their first win in 2025. But do you see some of the same characteristics from Pittsburgh, from their scoreless drought? Or is it too early to say?
No, I mean, that's a great point. I think what we've seen here early, and then maybe compared to last year as well, was just the lack of connectivity early on. And we see this long throw
into the area. Dangerous spot. Jang battling, still sitting there, and somehow ends up wide. And it is a goal kick. Scarlett ended up on his backside. He and Jang had the best looks at this.
Well, how about the two center backs, Joe Farrell and Jordan Scarlett, being the ones that are in the mix there?
It's kind of fanned on it.
Yeah.
Difficult spot in a lot of bodies, but that's just, again, a case of just putting a ball in a dangerous spot, maybe ending up with a good bounce.
Put it right in the mix, and you have to feel that Hartford is going to continue to grow into this match. I mean, it's sputtered out in moments. They've had some good possession through the back. I think there's a lot of quality in that midfield. Hairston, Makangila, Jonathan Jimenez, obviously missing Cariaga. Somebody that has really impressed Brendan Burke throughout preseason here early. But out with injury.
Jimenez. Walty deflected that out. This is the 2025 USL kickoff presented by Terminix. Throughout the month of March, USL will be kicking off across the country And of course, you can join us for all of the action on ESPN and CBS Sports platforms tonight. We're on Golazo. So glad you could be with us. Josh Appel, Eric Dobransky, as we wind down here in the first half. Pittsburgh in its home opener. Hartford whistle for a foul. Each team winless. Pittsburgh a loss and a draw. Hartford has only played one league match. Did not muster up a shot on goal. Still won't have one tonight. They did win though 3-0 in their Open Cup match on Tuesday. And Galena scored. Jang scored. As did Adewale Obalola. They have not been able to replicate some of that success here. Here's Itu. He's thwarted by Farrell, but then Walty won it back. Walty, his cross blocked. Farrell, a nice job recovering. It is going to be a corner though. Cohen Market's corner kick coming here for Pittsburgh Riverhounds.
And for Pittsburgh, if you cannot win first contact, can you then win the battle for the second phase, those second actions?
Here comes the in-swinger. Nobody home there for Pittsburgh, easily handled by Anthony Siaha.
Hitting that front zone, near post. No runners, and I think that delivery just needed to have a bit more pace to it.
Walty. Augie Williams in the area there, but won by Hartford. And just Augie Williams, not much of a factor in the first 41 plus minutes. Anderson, nice job stepping up. That's Galena. Jang. But you just see in the final third, Jang was looking for somewhere to go with it. Maybe somebody making a run towards goal, and he really had no options. Had to go and reset.
Well, and going back to your point earlier about the depth for Hartford, I think another aspect that's going to continue to kind of ask some different questions is how do they get sustainable production out of this front three? Because, I mean, you look at the names and you tell people who you're going to play against, that is a scary front three. Yeah. But how do they sustainably and consistently connect? We could see some of the struggles with the build-up play in terms of holding the ball up. A lot of times it goes right back to Pittsburgh Riverhounds and their back line. But you've also seen explosive moments where they're incredibly dangerous. This is a moment right here.
And Galena working on Mertz. And Galena puts it in front. I think Dick got a piece of it. And now Pittsburgh is on the move. Slow it down.
And now that is two clear-cut opportunities that they've created over being detailed with their pressing cues and being collective.
Something brewing here for Pittsburgh. The header! Big save, Siaha! On Idrak. Beautiful service in. Idrak with good pace on the header, but an excellent save by Siaha.
And there's that wide delivery that we've seen early on in this match. They go back to it. Idrak not playing center back this match, higher up the field. That ability to hunt space going forward.
Now they have a chance off the corner. Here it comes, towards the back post. Hartford handles it well, but O'Toole chases it down. Sent back into the area. Farrell got a piece of that. E2 flicks it. Mertz trying to catch up to it. Williams in the area as well. Ooh. Dangerous collision nearly between Mertz and Anderson. Big save by Anthony Siaha. Moments ago, still has this game scoreless.
You get two big interventions from both goalkeepers. First, the turnover that Hartford creates. The ability for Eric Dick to parry that ball far enough out of danger that nothing comes of it. But
ladies and gentlemen, there will be 2 minutes.
Almost immediately, Pittsburgh goes down the field. Gets that wide service by Aiden O'Toole and that header by Edrak.
O'Toole is making his first start of the season. Has played in both games already. So we have 2 minutes of added time in the first half here. Excellent job by Anderson. Deflected that cross and kept it from going out for a corner. Walty throws in. Williams. A rare touch in this half. The hair to match his kit.
And that goes back to a little bit of maybe where Hartford can possibly get on the ball a bit more. They have done a good job of keeping possession away from Augie Williams. They've screened passes. They've made sure.
Walty. Spin and fire. Well high from Griffin. A couple of chances for him in this half on the header earlier and that one there.
Well, and going back to the point with Augie Williams, when you're commanding that kind of attention, it's got to open up some sort of space for teammates. And that's another thing that Bob Lilly had talked about, was continuing to work with this group with reading and recognizing how each other is moving, and obviously predicated off of Augie Williams as well. What does that movement then equate to? Who is now open? Who is the open player? Who's the available player? And then on that player, make yourself open and get on the ball. Again, Hartford doing a good job of denying any sort of entry into Augie Williams, but they're going to want to see a bit more of the ball in the second half. And for Pittsburgh, can you find that final detail? They've worked well through the first two phases, through the build, through the midfield. Obviously, they've had some lax turnover that have turned into loud opportunities for Hartford, but trying to find some of that quality in those final actions.
On a night where Pittsburgh honored their legendary Canardo Forbes, still no score in Pittsburgh's home opener against Hartford Athletic. We'll be back with more at the half from Highmark Stadium after this.
We're not the universe's window company. We're not the world's window company. And we're not the nation's window company. Thermo Twin is Pittsburgh's window company.
Pittsburgh is our home. Check in with Thermo Twin. We are employee owned. Check in with Thermo Twin.
Check in now and get 25% off and 36-month interest-free financing.
Check in with Thermo Twin.
You're natural.
Let's make this more interesting. Winner gets...
the new 100 times the cash scratch-off with top prizes of 100 grand.
Oh, it's on.
Just you wait till next time.
Rematch next week?
Let's play it by ear. Keep on scratching.
Welcome back to Highmark Stadium. Oh boy, that looks like fun. No score in the home opener. Pittsburgh and Hartford Athletic. Josh Appel, Eric Dobransky with you. Well, it's a great night for Pittsburgh Riverhounds SC. Not only is it the home opener, but after announcing his retirement on March 13th, the club honored one of the best of all time to come through USL Championship and, of course, to play for Pittsburgh, Canardo Forbes. Eric, of all those moments, it's hard to choose the best one, especially when you play more than 22,000 minutes in USL, the most ever, 7 USL All-League selections. What more can you say other than a pillar of this league and a pillar of the Pittsburgh community? Yeah, and just the consummate teammate. I mean, in terms of just making players better and teammates better, and that's what you want from you know, somebody that leads by example, and King Kenny is one of the best to do it. And luckily for Pittsburgh, he's still around. He's on the coaching staff as an assistant. He's hoping to see his side break through with a win in their home opener. No score at the half.
We all have goals. But let's be honest, most of us aren't going to be professional athletes. But if your goal is to finish your degree, we can help. Come to a university that puts your goals first. Bellevue University, your partner in finishing goals.
Success doesn't come easy. It takes grit, hustle, and relentless effort. Every step forward brings you closer to greatness. This is your moment. Elevate your game. El Jimador Spiked Bebidas.
And it's a tremendous finish! San Antonio FC! Unreal! And in! Phoenix Rising!
News for the fans, for the teams, the organizations, the players. It's going to be something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Obviously, it doesn't happen immediately, so a lot of the coaches, he asked them about it. Obviously, they mentioned that they're only focused on the immediate, but obviously exciting for the league. And then we'd mentioned the Oakland Roots reopening the Coliseum, already over 25,000 tickets sold and already set to be one of those top 5 records for the USL Championship.
And then in the Open Cup, 7 of 8 clubs advanced this week. Birmingham, the only team to fall. They got cup set by Little Rock Rangers of USL League Two. So here are the scores from around the league today. Lou City in their home opener took down an unbeaten Loudoun United side with ease 2-0. 2-2 tie between Detroit and Birmingham Legion. New Mexico, a 1-0 clean sheet win over El Paso. How about Tampa storming back, taking 2-1 lead at the half over Miami, and they are also scoreless at the half between Lexington and Indy 11. As we take a look at our nationally televised matches beginning on April 6th on Big CBS, San Antonio and Phoenix Rising. Some great matchups right there and a little self-promotion. May 28th, 10:30 Eastern, myself, Devin Kerr, Las Vegas Lights, Phoenix Rising that night. We'll have the second half here from Pittsburgh after this.
natural.
Let's make this more interesting. Winner gets...
Ah, the new 100 times the cash scratch-off with top prizes of 100 grand.
Oh, it's on.
Just you wait till next time.
Rematch next week?
Let's play it by ear. Keep on scratching.
Ain't no better feeling than a cold one in my hand. That's why I'll be keeping Iron City in my plans. Oh, everywhere I roam, I'll be thinking about my home. Sitting pouring on the iron right before I go to rest. And when I'm laying in my bed, there's only one thing in my head. Just an ice cold can of Pittsburgh, PA's best.
Picks this ball up and unfortunately just unable to get it on frame. That would have been a loud start for Hartford, and they've done it. You've seen Pittsburgh Riverhounds do it with set pieces and corners, and Hartford has been effective with these long throws. You get Joe Farrell, you get Jordan Scarlett in and around the box, and they are opportunistic, just unable to get a touch on this one. And then we get a wide delivery from Aiden O'Toole. Edrak gets on the end of it, getting the start at midfield tonight. Was able to climb the field, find that dangerous space, work in between the two defenders. That was the best opportunities for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds in that first 45.
So there you see the first half stats. Shot attempts are even. Shots on target are even. But the possession disparity, not so much.
Yeah, and for Pittsburgh, that's going to be something that they want. But they also want it to equate to something dangerous in the final third. Whereas in Hartford, I almost feel like they've had the louder of the opportunities. Obviously, you mentioned the shots and the shots on target are equal. But Hartford seems to have that verticality right away in that transition. They probably want to see the ball a little bit more and use that midfield. It's a quality midfield, one that can set really good tempo. But for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, it's going to be about collectively being diverse and having that variety in the final third so that they can kind of move defenders for Hartford, because Hartford has retreated very well into their own 18-yard box and have made it very difficult to break them down. They've bottled up Augie Williams, denying entry into him. They've made everything go wide, and once it goes wide, they've been there and structured to defend the wide services.
See Danny Griffin there asking the referee tonight, Brandon Stevens, no sleeves for you tonight on the feels like 30 degrees? Brandon says, no, sir. So ready for action in half number 2 from Highmark Stadium on the banks of the Three Rivers in Pittsburgh. The home opener on a night where they're honoring Kenardo Forbes. Josh Appel, Eric Dobransky with you. Thanks so much for spending your Saturday night with us. No subs for either side in or during halftime, I should say.
And we had touched on the possession numbers there at half, and one thing that we have on our end is the touches in the opposition box, and they're almost even. For Pittsburgh, you have 10 touches in the opposition box, 9 for Hartford in that first 45. So although the numbers are skewed possession-wise.
E2 puts it in front, and it went line of goal. Augie Williams making a run. Looked like Danny Griffin was making a run, but it just could not find its way.
And the involvement of Edrak at midfield, his ability to play make from that deeper position at center back, and now moving him up a level, obviously a versatile player that can be effective in both those. Get another Robbie Mertz delivery.
Off the corner. Flicked up into the air by Scarlett. Still alive, and now cleared away by Beckford.
This game is just begging for a goal because you could tell that both these teams are a bit nervy. They're a bit tense. They're both coming off regular season losses. Both don't have a win yet. Obviously, Hartford, they only have the one game. But you just feel like they're both asking themselves questions. But once it gets to that final moment, going back to what Bob Lilly talked about, it needs that risk. It needs that bravery going forward, and not even just from Pittsburgh Riverhounds. I think Hartford would say the same thing about the way they're playing right now.
Beto Edrock is talking Brandon Stevens. There's Brendan Burke, hoping that his side can conjure up some kind of result here tonight on the road. Difficult environment. It's a good ball, but wasn't able to be handled. Osumanu flicks it back towards Mertz. It's E2. Too heavy of a touch, cleared away for the moment, and then miss-hit. We get a whistle before that for a foul. I think we might have.
And I know it's a small snippet, but that is a hint of what Hartford probably wants to grow into, not even just tonight, but throughout the season, is their ability to, once they recuperate possession in that back line, or even in their defensive third, can they progressively and effectively find the outlet? They're just kind of playing it away and unable to find Zhang, unable to find Ingalina, unable to find Beckford. I mean, we haven't really seen a lot of involvement from Beckford.
Yeah.
And he's a dangerous attacking presence as well.
How much of that is what Pittsburgh is doing? How much of that is just Hartford's inability to get the ball to their playmakers?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both, to your point. I think the ability for Pittsburgh to influence that ball being played in is big. But I even think the moment just a few minutes ago, there was that clear path. Now it's about Zhang making himself available and being proactive with that ability to recognize that channel that's available. But yeah, I think it's a bit of a mix. I think for Pittsburgh going into this match, knowing the verticality and the threat that they had with Zhang and Ingalina, and then obviously Beckford's ability to kind of sit in behind him and play make, they had two different approaches. They could either sit back, absorb it, kind of sit deep, and then you invite them, but you possibly give up more corners, you give up set pieces. But they've wanted to have an aggressive approach and create chances for themselves, so they've kind of looked to play in Hartford's half.
Be a throw in here for Pittsburgh. Anderson and Mertz were going at it pretty physically over there. Mertz in his fourth season of his second stint with Pittsburgh. Spent 2019 and 2020 here. E2, cross. Farrell sends it away for a throw-in.
And a bit of a new role for Robbie Mertz, typically playing a bit more central. Now he's playing along that left side, and this structure for Pittsburgh Riverhounds gets them on the ball. They've always been a team that wanted to create those numerical advantages out in those wide spaces, and this continues to do just that.
Mertz escapes through. E2, the cross. Nobody home. Cross to nowhere. Select is proud to be the official match ball supplier of the USL Championship. From the Academy to the big league, Select is there every step of the way. Visit us.select-sport.com for the latest Select products, specials, and more. Select, the player's choice. One more note on Robbie Mertz. In the theme of honoring Kennardo Forbes, Mertz led the team in assists last season, only the second time since 2018 that someone other than Forbes led in that category, and Mertz with a couple of goals and an assist this season can become the third 2020 player in Riverhounds history. And one
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, just look at how many players have come in to Pittsburgh and thrived. You know, we talk about some of the offensive, maybe the early growing pains last season, and then obviously, you know, going in 2 matches right now. But this is an organization where a lot of players have come through, grown into their careers, developed, done tremendous work.
And we talk about, well, is it what Pittsburgh is doing? Is Hartford just not unable to get it to their guys? And you look at the body of work for Bob Lilly. 241 matches as the head coach here. They've won 118 games. And in those 241 matches, they've conceded just 220 goals. It's less than a goal per match, as we have a little bit of extracurriculars here. And we talk about the steel curtain with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bob Lilly has instituted a steel curtain of his own with the way this group plays defensively. And even when they go through stretches where they can't score much, they are able to put together at least some kind of result because of how stout defensively they are.
Yeah, you just, defense travels.
Yeah.
Whether you're, I mean, obviously you're at home at Highmark tonight, and obviously Highmark has been an incredibly difficult place for opponents to come in and get results. But when you have the structure and you have the setup that they do defensively, you can go on the road and play some of the best teams in the USL Championship. Obviously, Pittsburgh Riverhounds being one of the better, you know, one of the consistently top teams in the East and within the USL Championship. But that's where that structure has been so important. That's why to fathom never missing the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just,
with so much roster turnover from year to year.
100%. I mean, you just, the fluidity, the change, I mean, it's been there, and to consistently make the playoffs just goes to the problem solving and the collaboration between the players and the coaches. And obviously just the overall competitive nature.
54th minute. Just one shot on goal for each side. And for Hartford, it was their first in league play. Of course, the 3-0 win earlier this week in the Open Cup. Pittsburgh might be having something brewing here. Mertz goes wide. O'Toole. Flick towards the back post. Augie was lurking, but Siaha met it.
And you want to put that ball in an area that Anthony Siaha has to work through some of that traffic. Right now, we've seen some of those services end up right at the hands of Siaha.
Anderson was pinned down in that corner and has to give it up, and it's a throw-in for Pittsburgh.
With such a presence that Siaha is, you need to move him. You need to make him make decisions. Right now, putting yourself in good spots, in good areas to get quality services and get good layers to the runs, but just unable to convert.
Biasi had that one go off the back of his head, and Ingalina got it, lost it, committed a foul, and might have nicked himself, clutching that left ankle. $4,026 fans packing in Highmark Stadium tonight for Pittsburgh Riverhounds home opener, and a night to honor Kennardo Forbes. They're hoping to see their side reward them with a goal and 3 points tonight. Feels like the way this game has gone that one will do the job, whoever scores first.
And these fans being one of the massive reasons Highmark is such a fortress and such a difficult place to play.
Williams. They get a foul prior to that on Mertz. Prestis went down. TJ Prestis, first season with Hartford, was the captain at Yale last year First team All-Ivy League, Defensive Player of the Year. Brother Owen is with the Columbus Crew organization, plays in MLS Next Pro, but Prestis forced into the starting 11 because Emmanuel Samadia serving a red card suspension. Arturo Dispe dealing with an injury. Jang has Anderson wide. Mertz right on him. Biasi has some trouble again. Gets some support. Prestis flicks it back. O'Toole, tight quarters, gets it to Williams, back to O'Toole. Too heavy on that touch, but it is a throw-in for Pittsburgh. Soccer season is here, and SeatGeek is the official ticketing partner of USL. Get all your USL tickets and more from the #1 ticketing site. SeatGeek, your ticket to great seats.
The one thing that for Augie Williams, when you're trying to start to kickstart this attack for Pittsburgh in the final third, so Augie Williams is not an attacking player that needs a lot of touches. I mean, we talked about denying some of the entries, but he only needs one good look at goal and he'll create. So he's not a center forward or an attacking player that needs to get into rhythm, that you need to get on the ball just so that he can feel involved and in rhythm and in flow. He's always had this temperament of being able to adjust to what the game is giving him and what the game demands. So he's going to be a consistent threat. He might not have some heavy involvement just yet, but somebody that you need to continue to stay switched on and locked in on.
He scored for 6 different teams, top 5 in USL Championship history in goals. We mentioned it earlier, Cal Jennings, the only player with more since 2020. Walty for Biasi. Goes to the outside, O'Toole working against Prestis. Now it's Edrock, back post. Mertz was making a run through the middle. Williams lurking again. And now Suber has to retreat to play this back to his keeper, Eric Dick, who has not seen much in his direction here tonight. Looks like we'll see our first changes in moments. Pittsburgh readying a substitution. Osamanu. Walty. Trying to get it in the direction of O'Toole. Biasi steps up, dangerous play, and he draws the whistle. And we'll have our first substitution of the night. Jason Borghi will enter. Aiden O'Toole will exit. Little trouble for the 4th official. 0 coming in for 0. And actually, it's Aiden O'Toole coming out for Borghi.
And replacing him is number 20, Jason Borghi.
Just giving Pittsburgh Riverhounds a different look out in that wide space. Aiden O'Toole and Robbie Mertz have been very busy on the ball. asking different questions of this Hartford back line, just unable to get that service that opens the score sheet.
Borghi coming off the bench for the first time this season, started the first 2 matches. First season here in USL Championship, played for League Two side FC Motown previously. Villanova alum, 23 years old. He's hoping to have an impact on this match here in the second half. It's an hour old. And they got Griffin, the captain, for a handball.
Players will be signing autographs on the pitch. Stick around and meet the team. Presented by King Orthodontics. Pittsburgh's most confident smile.
Just a few minutes ago, you saw Sean Suber dribble out of the back, play make from that center back position. That's something, I think, as this second half wears on, can you get a bit more playmaking ability from this back line? We've seen Itu climb the field, put himself in dangerous areas. We have not seen a lot of Biasi, but we have seen a lot of Aiden O'Toole, his involvement, obviously now with Borghi on the field. But an ability for a center back to drive and move defenders and manipulate time and space is going to be something that maybe they can capitalize on as Hartford naturally just gets into this deeper shape, pinned back.
I don't feel like Hartford has really had possession of it at all in this half until right now. Trying to go over the top for Ingalina. And they do earn a corner. So a potential opportunity here for Hartford in the 64th minute. Possession is 70-30 right now. And it's their first corner of the match, and it comes here in the 64th minute. Anderson will take it. The outswinger. Landed in a dangerous spot, but cleared away. Now Ingalina whistles it high.
Said it a bit in the first 45 as we see Ingalina getting onto this opportunity from distance. Ball always rising, not forcing Eric Dick into a save. But for Hartford, and we've gotten glimpses of it tonight, it's going to be about trying to find a blend of, once they regain possession, staying in possession, and finding that rhythm and that ability to be ball dominant in certain areas, and then also that blend of being able to play quick and get Ingalina in behind, get Zhang in behind. Obviously, Beckford has that ability to be vertical as well. It does feel just a bit rushed when they regain possession. They want to go vertical right away, and I think when you're in that space where you're going vertical, and it's a bit predictable for Pittsburgh in terms of your ability to play, drop the line, absorb that longer pass.
Pittsburgh building something here. Mertz for Itu. Itu trying to get around the defender and could not. Well played. And it's a goal kick. So, Eric, earlier we talked about our building a win. For Pittsburgh, secure transition. Hartford, find margins. How would you say each side has lived up to those?
I mean, for the most part, Pittsburgh has lived up to the secure transition. I think some of the most dangerous opportunities for Hartford have come off of some lax buildup from Pittsburgh. I mean, you talk about the first minute by Zhang picking off that pass in the back, and then Ingalina having an opportunity from the wide area. Other than that, they've limited some of the loud opportunities in transition. And then I think for Hartford, they've just been unable to capitalize on those two chances that they created off the press. And then they've been unable to sustain and be consistent with getting themselves on the ball, finding the outlets and finding those margins that'll come to define a match and those winning moments, those winning plays that you can create to pick up 3 points on the road.
It's been tough sledding for them tonight. Rarely had the ball in their possession. But on the flip side, Pittsburgh has struggled to do much with it as E2 puts one on target. But Siaha is there.
There's that commitment from Hartford to influence the final action. Yes, E2 explodes into this space and gets it on his right foot. The ability for Hartford to put pressure, force the shot near post instead of being able to wrap this ball around and trying to beat Siaha to that far side. And what'll be interesting is as this game wears on, as we approach the 70th minute mark, does Hartford naturally climb into a defensive and even more defensive shape and say, hey, picking up 1 point on the road at Pittsburgh is something that we'll take? And I'm not saying that was the game plan by Brendan Burke or his side. I just say naturally as this game wears on, do you kind of find yourself retreating into your own box, defending and making sure that you at least secure some of those big moments?
But that, sometimes can be dangerous because then you're playing not to lose at that point, and a lot of times that's how you get beat.
Yeah, you end up inviting too much pressure.
Right.
And then on top of that, when you commit that many numbers around the ball or around a certain area in the box, there's a lot of assuming going on. You assume that your teammates got that area patched up. You assume that your teammates got this 1v1 marked up. And a lot of things can happen.
You know what they say about when you assume things? You just shouldn't assume. That's what they say. Certainly know what they're saying.
Dance mom star Melissa Gassoni will be here to sign autographs and meet the fans. Get your tickets now at riverhounds.com.
Could this be the moment for Hartford? Good ball ahead. Takes a deflection off the shot from Ingalina. I need a better attempt than that. Suber had to deflect off of his shin and right to Eric Dick.
And you got to imagine that right there is going to be a sequence that Brendan Burke, his team, and his attacking players are going to want to look at and be like, how do we define what we want out of this moment? Do we want Ingalina to take that touch going to goal and maybe try to incur some contact, but also be physical and aggressive with himself going to goal? And then if they do elect to play that ball across, what does the run off that ball look like? What does Zhang's run need to include? Does it need to be a hard drive to goal, and then now you pull off and you occupy the secondary space? That's going to be something, if you're going to rely on some of these transition moments just like this, you want to define what they look like and what the roles and responsibilities are going to be.
And Beckford trying to make a run there and utilize that speed, but he was well defended on that side. Mertz tracks it down for E2. E2 turns it back for Mertz. Walty fires one in. It's not there.
And just as I was saying for Hartford, I would say almost the same for Pittsburgh in terms of defining what they want some of those wide services to look like, because my goodness, they've put themselves in some positive situations where they've been on the ball, faced up, going to goal. Just needs a little bit different of a run, the timing, the delivery. So when you want to work in those wide or half spaces, what do you need?
And Galena again. And Galena for Jang. Great defensive play by Usamanu, but then Hairston torches one high. Things starting to open up a little bit for Hartford.
The link-up play between these two players is something that Brendan Burke, his team, are going to count on throughout this season. Obviously, Shane Beckford being a dangerous piece as well. But my goodness, the entry ball and the simplest of touches out wide, and they were off and running. And that was the run that it almost looked like they needed from the play a few moments ago.
Yeah.
Saw Zhang drive at the goal, but then the last minute pull up his run, and Galena almost able to find him and pick him out.
That's Hairston down for Hartford. Looks like Griffin down. Excuse me, that's Edrock down for Pittsburgh. Those two collided right around the edge of the 18 on that attempt. And while we have a moment, just want to remind you that if you can't watch the match, you can turn on Sirius XM FC 157, North America's only 24/7 source for engaging soccer talk, including USL All Access on Tuesday nights, plus hear live matches from the USL, MLS, Premier League, and more on Sirius XM FC 157 and the new Sirius XM app. And I'm going to keep plugging it, not just because there are colleagues and our friends, but Mike Watts, Devin Kerr on USL All Access, a phenomenal interview this week with Kenardo Forbes, who is, of course, now an assistant for Pittsburgh Riverhounds, but one of the all-time greats in this league. He was honored here tonight pregame. Please go check out that wonderful interview that Mike and Devin did with Kenardo.
Yeah, terrific stuff, and always what I turn to for my USL Championship updates after a weekend of games, and love to get their insights, and they always have tremendous guests on. As you mentioned, Kenardo Forbes, they had Lexington head coach Terry Boss on last week.
I don't want to give Devin too much credit. Mike is the one who carries that show. Samanu. Can either team break through here? Less than 20 minutes remaining. We've completed 74 minutes here in Pittsburgh.
I've seen a couple close calls, and just as I mentioned about Hartford, that natural inclination to maybe sit back and retreat and at least earn 1 point, and then obviously look for that one opportunity to break and score a goal. But we've seen hints of it the last few moments as Zhang is reading some of these pressing cues and almost getting on the end of it, and Pittsburgh has to be careful in that build.
Throw in here for Pittsburgh. Biasi still with it. Biasi deflected, and then Edrock tried to step into it, mishit it, kept it alive for E2. E2 flicks it in, header! It's Griffin! It took 75 minutes, but the captain comes through.
And just exceptional all around. The mix of patience and urgency from the Pittsburgh Riverhounds in this build. This left-footed delivery, the accuracy, the pace, the shape, and then the run by Danny Griffin. And you could see that beyond the run, the late entry from Danny Griffin, his teammates occupying Hartford defenders and making sure that they had to make tough decisions. And exactly what Pittsburgh was looking for.
The goal is brought to you by Cone Markets, and it's a massive one for Pittsburgh. Griffin, who set a career high in goals last year, has his first of the season in Pittsburgh's home opener, and how fitting is it that on the night when they honor their former captain, Bernardo Forbes, it's the current captain, Danny Griffin, who scores the goal.
And Danny Griffin, a player that has led this team in minutes played the last three or four seasons. So somebody that has been influential. What a run. We mentioned it all night, that ability to get some of those services off, those early services, but just missing that variety in the runs. They bit too stagnant. But reverse that trend on that delivery.
Hartford getting ready to make a couple of substitutions. Adewale Abolala, the 19-year-old, he will enter for Deshane Beckford. And Junior Morera will come on for Jonathan Jimenez. So a 19-year-old, Obalola, he scored and assisted in the Open Cup on Tuesday. And Junior Morera, who turns 22 in just a few days. See if they can provide a spark here for Hartford and get this game level. Goal by Danny Griffin in the 76th minute. Pittsburgh's captain, fittingly.
Tonight's post-game meal partner is Dianoia's Eatery. Voted the best Italian restaurant in Pittsburgh by the PGH City paper.
Yeah, now Hartford is going to have to open up just a bit more. A bit more on the front foot.
Pastries, bread, sandwiches, and more. Visit Dianoia's Eatery at 26th Street in Penn.
Is there anything that you notice they can exploit here? And again, they just have not had the ball at all, really. Outside of a quick look in transition, quick counter, there really has not been much there for them, as it's taken away here by Makangila. Obalola tried to find Angelina, but couldn't. Angelina giving chase, E2 cleared.
When their verticality has consisted of 2 or 3 passes then in, we've seen them be dangerous against Pittsburgh. When their verticality and that pressure from that front line has only required 1 pass, it's been predictable, and it's been something for Pittsburgh. They've just been able to pick up services. Obviously, they've had some miscues out of the back. We've had some misclearances. We've had some lax play out of the back from Pittsburgh that have turned into some dangerous opportunities for Hartford. But we've seen it when their transition is predicated off of a ball into feet to Zhang, and then now Angelina's running off, or vice versa. Angelina on the ball, dropping in front of that front line, and then a running behind. We've seen a bit more multi-dimensional play and a threat to Pittsburgh. So I think that's something that Hartford, if they can find some of that entry ball, as we see another turnover here.
Zhang, edge of the 18, puts on the brakes, tried to feed it to Morera, but couldn't get it there. Anderson. Hartford fighting back to try and claw their way back in, and Anderson commits the foul. Grabbed around the shoulders of Mertz. He's protesting, but he's not going to win that argument.
And that's one of those, I know as a coach and as a team, it gets frustrating because you were on the ball, but you also have to understand that you have that player going away from goal. You have him in a difficult situation collectively. If you can press them into that area and turn them over still, but now you settle for the foul, and it's just really an easy outlet for Pittsburgh.
A goal by Danny Griffin in the 76th minute. Will it be enough for Pittsburgh in their home opener. Time is running out for Hartford. And we've hammered it home all night, but the possession discrepancy tonight, 67-33 in favor of Pittsburgh. Bouncing around in the area, and Eric Dick is able to play it. Golden Gloves winner last year. First team All-League. Team record 14 clean sheets, and he is minutes away from his first of 2025.
And just to expand on what you were just talking about with possession, 501 total passes for Pittsburgh, 259 for Hartford. And the passing accuracy, 64.9% for Hartford and 84.8% for Pittsburgh.
Ones like that.
Yeah, and you could say sometimes for teams when you have a passing accuracy in that 84, 80+ percentage, can it be side to side?
E2, the cross, nobody home. Williams chasing it down. Can he get there? He does. Biasi through everybody. E2 is down on that far side. As you can see now at the right of your screen, now off screen. And finally, we have a halt in play to address that situation. E2. And it's really tough. Pittsburgh has dealt with a number of injuries since the preseason. E2 on his feet, and that's good sportsmanship there by Anthony Siaha, the keeper for Hartford. Is Pittsburgh ready some subs for this final stretch?
Bring them out, bring them out, bring them out, bring them out. It's hard to yell when the barrel's in your mouth. More substitutions coming in for Pittsburgh. Firstly coming out, number 14, Robbie Mertz. In his place, number 15, Bradley Simple. Also checking out, number 8, Junior Etu. And in his place, number 6, Matt Broughton.
So there you hear the announcements for the subs for Pittsburgh. Etu is out. Broughton is in. Max Broughton is in. Bradley Sample. Second season in Pittsburgh. He replaces Robbie Mertz. Broughton, his first season as a pro. Played at West Virginia. Also in the U18 Premier League for Brighton and Hove Albion. Decorated career at West Virginia. He is tasked here with trying to assist his side in hanging on to this 1-0 lead in the 85th minute. 5 minutes plus stoppage time to go for Pittsburgh's first win of 2025. Remember, this is a Pittsburgh team that went winless in its first 5 matches a season ago. Started the year 3-9-6 before going on a run to clinch a 7th consecutive postseason berth under Bob Lilly. They've never missed the playoffs under it. Jang for Ngalina. Jang almost got it back. Battle for it along the touchline. And it rolls out for a Pittsburgh throw. Scarlett in retreat mode. Eric, you must have forgotten your vuvuzela.
Yeah. They were big hit, and they've just held on.
Big hit, I think you would find a polarizing answer on whether or not they would agree
yeah.
with that.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
87th minute.
And you can see Luke Biasi has changed over to that left side, and Max Broughton has come over to play right back.
Siaha corrals it, gets it started. This is Prestis. Can Brendan Burke's side level things? Prestis back for Scarlett. Scarlett goes long down the right side, and nobody there in white.
And I know as precious time ticks away, Hartford is just looking for one clear-cut opportunity, but you have to force the issue. You have to make that happen. And what does that look like for Hartford? We talked about the natural inclination for them to drop in when it was 0-0. Maybe naturally retreat. Human nature kind of says as that game wears on, hey, we can leave Highmark and leave Pittsburgh with a point.
Around the outside, and hey, this is an opportunity here for Hartford. They'll have a corner.
And I was going to say, now that might flip. Now that you're playing with a lead, Pittsburgh is, do they find themselves retreating and inviting? So now Hartford can kind of find some more dangerous opportunities. It starts with this corner.
Anderson to put it in the box. The header, oh, it just comes over everybody. They had Jang going towards the back post there. That would have connected. As Pittsburgh is going to make another substitution. Brigham Larson, first season in USL Championship. From Oslo, Norway, alum of Charlotte. 22 years old, he replaces Augie Williams, who is still trying to figure things out here in Pittsburgh. And again, we talked about it earlier. You want to see what that combo with Bertrand Jacqueson looks like when Jacqueson is back. So off the throw in, Farrell couldn't put that on target. It's out for a goal kick.
That off these goal kicks, can you make first contact? Can you be progressive with the first and second touches here going forward?
Siaha starts things. Can Hartford find the late equalizer on the road? Danny Griffin, the captain for Pittsburgh, with the header in the 76th minute. The only scoring so far. And Obalola can't get there. And he is sprinting to hand Eric Dick so he can get things started.
There will be 5 minutes of stoppage time. That's another 5 minutes.
So 5 minutes of added time. Can Hartford build anything here and at least maintain some kind of possession these final moments as they search to level things? Possession for them has been hard to come by all night. Morera. That was Makangila, excuse me. Farrell turns back. Low cross through everybody. Anderson chasing it down. Lets it go for a throw. Anderson's going to get as much of a head start, momentum behind him as he can. Long throw into the area, head into the air. And there's a whistle before.
In that transition moment just a minute ago, I was a little surprised to see how much space there was between the Pittsburgh backline and midfield. He had that front three for Hartford sitting in between the channels. It's going to be something that you want to make it a bit more tight. Right there where you can get that down press and influence their ability to go forward and make them have to work side to side, make them have to break you down. With that separation, they were able to play one ball, and it was in to Zhang.
Obalola turns and fires towards the area. Flicked into the air. Too far. Hartford wanted a handball. They don't get it. Hairston on it. Off target on that and cleared away.
Seemed as if they had more time on that service. I know that ball was bouncing and trying to play quick and get one back, but just lacked quality with that delivery.
Get on target. And now Walty is away with it on a dead sprint. Sends it all the way down. That is perfectly done.
Yeah, he saw that touch get away from him, and instead of just letting it run out on the touchline, making sure that he played it as deep as he could, pushing Hartford to a goal kick. Again, them having to rely on being direct and vertical.
Hartford trying to make something happen. Running out of time, though. Whistle here and a foul on Pittsburgh, so Hartford will have a few extra moments.
You're going to get everything thrown at you if you're Pittsburgh. Hartford's going to make sure that they get a quality delivery. They have the numbers. So we can see Makangila hobbled. Get Sebastian Anderson on this ball. Depending on where this back line and the defensive line sets up, drop this right behind that defensive line, right in front of the penalty spot.
Here it comes. It's Siaha forward. Obalola for Farrell. He lost it. Taken away by Borghi, and he clears away. And there is the final whistle. First win of the season for Pittsburgh. It comes in the home opener. What a way for Bob Lilly's side. In classic Pittsburgh fashion, a 1-0 clean sheet. First clean sheet of the season for the team that tied for the league lead in them last year. And on a night where they honor Kennardo Forbes, quite an effort.
Yeah, workmanlike performance from Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Almost complete identity for what they do defensively. Obviously, they're going to want to clean up some of those attacking sequences. Felt like they created some dangerous opportunities in those half spaces and wide services, just unable to take up those spaces and create anything clear up until that man scoring, Danny Griffin tucking it away.
And he is tonight's man of the match, presented by Modelo. Scored the game-winning goal in the 75th minute. The one and only tally that Pittsburgh Riverhounds needed. Now it's time for tonight's smooth save of the game, and it's presented by Smoothie King. Rule the day. He wasn't tested all that often, but when he was, Eric Dick made the stop.
And this one of two really dangerous turnovers from the Pittsburgh Riverhounds in the build, and Eric Dick able to influence that final action, make sure to parry it away.
The Golden Gloves winner from a season ago notches his first clean sheet of 2025. Danny Griffin scores the only goal. It's a 1-0 win for Pittsburgh in their home opener. Back with more after this.
with a dangerous opportunity from Zhang picking off a pass from Pittsburgh, and then almost closed out the half with an identical play in terms of the turnover. This one with a drive with Ingalina, and then Eric Dick, an important intervention, get this ball out of the 6-yard box, and then just a few moments later, it goes from the Pittsburgh box down to the Hartford box. This delivery by Aiden O'Toole, and the chance by Edrak forcing Anthony Siaha into a big save before the break. That would have changed the narrative completely.
We were scoreless all the way up until this point. What a ball into the area. And Griffin, unmarked. The captain does not miss from there.
And I know that Augie Williams did not have a goal and did not have any sort of offensive stat in terms of assist tonight, but you could see right there, he occupied 2 defenders, Jordan Scarlett and Joe Farrell. That near post opened up that channel for Danny Griffin, find the game winner, and Pittsburgh picks up a massive 3 points.
So Hartford gets dominated possession numbers, as you see. They didn't have a single shot on goal in their first match against Lexington. Tonight, they're only able to muster up 1. And you think back to that chance they had in the first 30 seconds of the match, they did not get one as quality as that.
Well, and we see it time and time again, games defined by moments, and what a loud start that would have been if Zhang was able to put that first chance away in that first minute, because that's the way they wanted to press Pittsburgh and unable to convert, and Pittsburgh goes ahead and finds the game winner, late in that second half, and they pick up the 3 points.
It took Pittsburgh until their 6th match last year to get a win. And tonight, when they honor a franchise cornerstone, Kenardo Forbes, they open up their home slate in 2025 with a 1-0 victory. For Eric Dobransky and our entire USL Championship crew, this is Josh Appel saying so long from Highmark Stadium in Pittsburgh. Riverhounds, victorious 1-0. Have a great rest of your Saturday night, and we'll talk to you next time.
This copyrighted telecast of the United Soccer League cannot be retransmitted, rebroadcast, or reproduced without the express written consent of the United Soccer League.